When I was 5 years old, I drew a scary picture. I don't quite remember what the image was of, but from what I've heard, it wasn't your typical kindergarteners drawings of rainbows and butterflies. At the time I had done this drawing, it was a couple of days after someone in my family had gotten sick. So when my dad saw little me creating such a violent picture, he was unsure of what to do. So he asked a coworker for some advice. The coworker told him to simply ask me what the drawing was about. So my dad took that advice, went home and asked if I was okay. I looked up at him sweetly and I said, "I'm okay, I'm just drawing like the boys do." I wasn't upset or angry or feeling sad. I just drew that for fun because I'd seen a boy in my kindergarten class draw something along those lines. But is that all behind a kid's disturbing artwork, or is there more to it? But first, we need to understand the 3 factors that go into kids drawing horror art. Number 1, their age. The age of the child is important because it can determine what to do to help the child if necessary. Our teenagers might often draw violent images as a result of a goth phase or something like that. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's nothing to worry about. If there's other signs in your child, like withdrawing from social contact, becoming worse at school, or any other unusual behaviour, take them to a therapist or school counsellor to get some advice. According to the Encyclopedia of Children's Health, it is far more unusual for younger children to draw violent images compared to older children or even adults. Kids under the age of 9 draw what they see in their environment, like their friends, family, or objects they might see at home or school. This leads me to say that if a child is drawing violent images, consider where they might have seen these types of pictures. I would also like to note that especially younger children, it's a bad idea to try to interpret the drawing for yourself. For example, what you think could be blood could just in fact be a juice spill. Instead of trying to see the drawing in your own way, ask the child what the drawing is about and be patient while they explain. Number 2, the details of the drawing, like the colours and what exactly the child draws. An article written by John Martinez called Warning Signs in a Child's Drawings explains the importance of colours and shapes in a kid's artwork. He says that the colours describe the emotional life of the child. In my personal opinion, the colours don't always have a whole lot to do with this situation, but they can be an influencing factor. There's a whole lot of colours in your marker bin. If your child uses red or black all of the time, this situation might be one that you should look into. Usually, a child will select red or black for small details, but if all of their drawings require the excessive use of these colours, it could potentially be a bad sign. I'm in no way saying that red or black always means something bad. They could just simply be their favourite colours. But if these colours are accompanied by some violent images, now might be the time to take action. Therapists say that the colour black is often linked with childhood depression, and the colour red could be a sign that the child is feeling angry. But keep in mind that just because your child draws something in a black texture doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be diagnosed with depression when they're older. Dr. Christopher Hastings says that children drawing monsters could be a sign that they're feeling powerless. This monster could be a figment of their imagination or represent someone in their actual lives. Again, if you're not sure or concerned about your child's well-being, take them to a therapist or school counsellor. Number 3, what has happened? Like I mentioned before, the reason that your child is drawing horror art could be because of something they've seen around them, like a TV show or something at a friend's house. But there's also a possibility that where they've got their inspiration for drawing horror art is online. You see, if a kid, for whatever reason, wanted to know how to draw something creepy, I guarantee that their first instinct would be to look on the internet. And if you type up horror art into Google, you're going to be confronted with some very disturbing images. These images could make kids very afraid or even cause stuff like nightmares or paranoia. If a child exhibits any of these behaviours, take them to a therapist or school counsellor. So, if you see your child drawing horror art, ask them where they've seen this type of stuff, and even do it with them to prevent them from seeing unwanted images. It's that communication between a parental figure and a child that is so important, especially when it comes to creativity or self-expression through subjects like art. Be involved in your child's creativity, don't restrict it. An article written by Kids Helpline called Supporting Your Child Through Grief and Loss says that your child might show more challenging or demanding behaviours as they try to get care or reassurance from you. Themes of death may show up in their drawings or play. The next page, titled What You Can Do to Help, gives them some tips to help them manage their feelings. Offer support, comfort and reassurance, Kids Helpline says. Acknowledge or help them name or identify their feelings. Kids drawing horror art could be a way for them to understand something they've seen, whether physically or just in their head. They could use art as a form of communication, to write or draw what's on their mind. If all of a sudden your child goes from drawing rainbows and butterflies to more violent images, talk to them about it to help them understand their feelings. It's not one bad drawing that's a massive cause for concern, it's more a pattern that you should look out for. But lastly, Does this make it okay for people to draw horror art? Something that a lot of people might not realise is that art is self-expression, and each person's taste of art is different. What I might find the most beautiful thing in the world, you could think is the ugliest thing in the world. There's no right or wrong or correct or incorrect opinion about art. And since children are naturally curious and like to figure things out for themselves, they might not realise that they have drawn could be considered creepy in your eyes. It's not that if a child draws a monster, it's wrong. It's that if they draw this type of stuff and start acting strange from it, then you should talk to them about it to help them understand their feelings. If professionals say that your child is happy and healthy, drawing horror art shouldn't be frowned upon. It's okay if it's not negatively impacting themselves or others. People can make a legitimate living out of art, so don't restrict your kid from exploring different genres of it. As long as they're okay, I believe children should be allowed to draw whatever they like. Thank you.